Ministers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to call the Transatlantic Climate Conference to order here in the Nordic House in Tórshavn, the Faroe Islands. This is a conference on man's relation to and impact on nature. Allow me for a start to read out to you a stanza from a Faroese poem that to my mind beautifully pictures this relationship. It describes the gift of life and how we, you and I, relate to all nature, stones, flowers, animals, the stars, and humanity, materially and spiritually. Mykje vermar givet til. Løyve bær meg inn I streim av anta og av ant. Leite meg mot steinen og støtten av bil, mot blommen, dyren, manna tokka til min salva grønt. Jeg og I ødlun, alt og mer og I selen jolve, livande og dett og I som og flå. Alt som rørtest under høven kvolve, jøgnen hoen, halgeiser slå. We are sitting in the middle of the ocean on some wayward volcanic mountaintops of a mighty mountain ridge, mostly subsea, which erupted 65 million years ago, around the same time as the dinosaurs disappeared. These mountaintops have had the good sense to stay about sea level as far back as we can see. We lost the dinosaurs, but gained the Faroe Islands. The Faroese think that was a quite good swap. Somebody has said that the Faroe Islands are far out and really should not be there. But here we are and sit like a mothership in the dead center of the Northeast Atlantic. An observation post, but also a country that bears the full brunt of the forces of nature, be they extreme weather conditions or global changes in climate. Inconvenient scientific facts often trigger irrational short-term reflexes. Uncertainty about data and models is stressed to avoid changing anything. In some cases, science is confounded with advocacy. This is common, but is not conducive to progress. What we have to deal with is the impact of human activities on the environment. Man is defined and has developed by his interaction with nature. This is very much in evidence in the Faroe Islands, but is equally true in the big metropolises of the world. The challenge is to monitor and manage the level of impact to ensure that impacts are not irreversible and the use of the natural resources is sustainable in the short and long term. The link between science and policy is always an issue. Applied science has grappled with that problem for centuries. The acquirement of scientific data and models to describe nature and then apply that knowledge to mitigate human impact is one problem. Bringing scientific evidence on the consequences of human behavior into the political domain and up the political agenda is another, an issue that these days is hotly debated in global forums. However, we cannot avoid considering the stark facts coming out of the last assessment by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. A common problem with all complex and multivariate models is that they may be robust in describing what has happened in the past, but do not have the same strength when predicting what's going to happen in the future. There is almost full agreement between science today that greenhouse gases have contributed to global warming, rising sea levels, and that the increase in greenhouse gases is a result of human activity. This must call for action. That will be precautionary and wise. We too often seem to concentrate on the costs of necessary actions to alleviate unwanted effects, but tend to forget the costs of inaction, which can be much more severe. The third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, put the importance of knowledge poetically, describing knowledge as a candle. As it lights another candle, the light of the original candle does not diminish. In the Faroe Islands, we face a problem of scope and scale. The country has the same need for research and knowledge as countries 100,000, 10,000 times our size. We cannot afford to build large, expensive institutions with all the necessary expertise. And the answer is obvious. We must reach out and create networks which we can contribute to and draw upon. At this conference, the organizers have cleverly gathered a group of wise people and experts to get a grasp on the complicated questions before us. We have a list of distinguished speakers to speak today in plenary and tomorrow in the workshops to make presentations on the great challenge of mitigating the impact of human activity on the global climate and the marine environment in the Atlantic Ocean, and the sustainable use of the resources in this part of the world. And it doesn't stop here. The organizers want to build on this conference and continue to raise the awareness of climate change and its challenges to the marine environment, to establish a transatlantic climate institute in order to, on a continuous basis, to kindle this candle of knowledge and light many more. Let me end by quoting the poet and Nobel laureate T.S. Eliot. In a poem called Little Gidding, he says, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." Thank you. Before I introduce the first speaker,